It's Zelos time once again for our channel, but this time around we're going to see something very unique, something that we've never reviewed from this brand, a DLC coated Swordfish 40. Now, Zelos has already done many other DLC coated models, but here's the thing. I've always been a critic of DLC and PVT coated watches as they always come off as plasticky for my taste. Will Zelos be able to overcome that hurdle? Find out in this video. Black watches are a specialized bunch that still retains the instrument spirit of a timepiece, but ironically devoid of that romanticized allure of gold bear steel. Ironic mainly because of what's added to the steel that ultimately removes some of its character. This is the biggest hurdle from anything coated on. Zelos did a commendable job at this DLC-coated Swordfish, barring some really hard-to-ignore missteps. Let's start with some updates like this much crisper bezel click mechanism. Zelos updated the bezel into a spring-loaded system that gives it a smoother yet more defined click. This still uses the NH35 movement, so there's no mystery about its low cost. The rest of the watch features the usual three-hand operation, the date window at 6, and the threaded crown for good measure. All of these are staples of the Swordfish line. This collection comes in 6 variants, 3 of which are 40mm in case diameter and 3 in 42. Flip it on its back and you'll find the quick release mechanism that's also coated in black, a neat touch for a channel favorite component. Well, it's our favorite half the time, that is, because it's really easy to detach but can be a challenge to install back into the lugs. That took about 10 seconds to attach, so it's not really that bad as I make it out to be. Now we save this feature for last as we want to demonstrate the convenience of this micro-adjust mechanism. As you can see here, there's no button from underneath the clasp, which has been installed on the top of this component. This is now molded in the shape of the Zelos medallion. You can now push in the extension to the size that you prefer. It still works in the same way as before. You push the button and the bracelet extends. The difference is that you can now use this function of the bracelet both when you have the watch on your hand and on your wrist. We watch enthusiasts have a funny relationship with our watches. This one really adds another playable feature to the watch that doesn't require the watch to leave your wrist. If you have attachment issues with your timepiece, this is now one more reason to keep it close. But this is a Zelos, and it's a time-honored tradition to abuse it with the straps that we have available on the channel. Featuring this unsponsored cameo of an Artem NATO strap, the impression quickly becomes more hands-on-deck and work-oriented. The orange stripe of this fabric sorta pairs well with the dial, but it's a little bit too orange and dark compared to the indexes. Bear in mind too that the NATO hardware is untreated bare steel, so that really creates a big contrast. Talking about contrast, there's a lot of you that really like some desert themes on your attire. And with this beige Hydroflex strap from Artem, the Swordfish now takes on a more military feel. This is a great combo for those who want a specific contrast that references the tactical in nature. And rest assured, both the watch and the strap are proven to withstand the harsh environments that you're likely not happy to be dropped into. Finally, I reconfigured this full loopless silkcloth strap with the black PVD coated clasp also from Artem. This now continues that full black style of this Swordfish, but now adding more textured patterns and stitchings from the side. Here, the hardware matches the case enough, so the whole setup creates this stealthy yet slim impression. The good thing about these loopless straps is that it also tucks in any excess material, making it less likely to flap on the wind or snag on something. The stealthiness of the Swordfish is also due to its shape on top of the black coating that it has. This iconic case from Zelos, yes, I dare say it's iconic now, is well known for its aggressively tapering lugs and facets. Beside a much more iconic diver in the Submariner, the hallmarks such as the crown guards are almost reduced to a couple of triangles on the Swordfish. Beside the elegant tapering bracelet of the Submariner, it's easy to see why the Zelos has a more tactical appeal. On the sub, the lugs are really pronounced, especially when hit by light. The Swordfish, on the other hand, is not only slim, but its black coating also tends to hide its contours in the shadows around it. This really sets the Swordfish apart from your typical dive watch, and for me, who's used to handling all of these swordfishes, it's a refreshing take on an old formula. From the side, we can definitely see the thickness of the Zelos, which is up to your preference. Some like it thick, as it gives a really toolish character, while others will like it slim for its ease of wear. For me personally, 38 and 40 millimeters is my desired case size, as even my favorite G-Shock has this sizing preference. From this shot, you can see what this Zelos is trying to be. A good middle ground between the good old dive watch with an extra tough utilitarian persona. I brought out this comparison because one of these is worth 3 times the price of the other. The Swordfish has a very fine application of this coating with just a slight hint of the texture underneath. It's also hardened to 2000 Vickers, so it will remain scratch resistant much longer. You can also see some great polished surfaces here and there, but it's not exactly something that we can call mirror-like. Now compare that to this titanium DLC coated G-Shock, you can clearly see which one of the two had more R&D behind that 3x price tag. It may not be 3x the quality, but it's certainly much more refined and the polished areas have a much deeper black to them. Now, this is what I was talking about when it comes to DLC coatings. There's so much variance between manufacturers, it's almost expected to have reservations before buying into any watch with this kind of coating. But then again, what's the likelihood of you owning both of these pieces at the same time for comparison? Well, the good thing about it is that it's different enough that both can live in the same collection. Now, some of you already had an experience with Zelos DLC. Mr. Teal's Zelos fan says that he already has a swordfish and an eagle that has this kind of coating, and he is very much pleased with the affordable DLC that Zelos is bringing. Mr. Zanzibar123 says that his crew will need to strap him to the mast in order for them to prevent him from buying this $400 insane value watch. But Technoboy21 gives us a reality check saying that this is actually his least favorite brand. The logo to him is cringe, the font that they use is very repulsive, and the hands are impossible for him to take. And finally, to balance out our initial impression of this swordfish, Rob's Esperus Ghost says, "So close. This with natural meteorite and white indices would have been a must-buy. Frankly, many Zelos watches are ruined because of their weird color choices. And this is a hint of the mishap that Zelos took with this particular model." In general, I have grown to trust the design choices of Zelos, and this bezel is one of them. It has this Yachtmaster impression with the sandblasted texture and polished inlays. This is my favorite part of the watch. It gives a lot of character while providing another texture with that black coating. From the side with all of the angled facets, there's a little bit of light play over this stark tone coupled with a hint of shine from those champers. We usually associate this milky sheen in the automotive industry, and it's a good selling point that ties back to this particular model. This also gives us a lot of aircraft vibes to it that men typically like, providing an overall technical yet hardworking spirit. And on the actual technical side, these narrow links gives it a lot of playability and articulation that conforms to your wrist of any size. The clasp is one of the larger facets of this watch, and it houses the very clever mechanism that we featured earlier. The bridges are properly and evenly coated as well, so it does the part and gets out of the way very easily. And lastly, we have a very bare steel case back here that I would have preferred also to have been DLC coated just to match the overall impression of the whole watch. Now let's get back to that dial. Now the dial has a lot of texture to it with a good pop of life with those orange accents. The sandwich style indexes will hold a lot of bloom charge to it because they were able to layer in a lot more paint here than applying them on a walled index. Now, what we've learned from dealing with manufacturers, loom needs to be contained. The more you apply, the more likely it will spill out of those walls. But on a sandwich style index, the whole surface is treated with loom and then covered over by the dial plate. This makes the actual dial thicker, but now with longer lasting and more potent loom. Now, all that being said, the loom used here doesn't really last as long as the standard Super Luminova. You know, the white-green one that people were mentioning earlier? And to me, the biggest misstep that Zelos did here is the treatment of the meteorite material on the dial. Yes, it's still got that great, sharply defined surface that's still a joy to look at, but it lost a large part of its appeal. You see, there are subtle tone and hue nuances to meteorite, not to mention the uneven reflection of light coming in its countless segments. That has been muted down to a uniform surface like this. If there was a war between nature and man in this watch, the man part obviously won out and engulfed the natural beauty of that now overused material called meteorite. Or maybe we can look at it this way: in the midst of this cold, black, man made timepiece, there's still a hint of nature looming behind the shadows. Zeros is like any other brand, after all. It will be subject to perceived hits and misses. Perceived meaning one could be a hit to a person and a miss to another. But it is another watch that you can wear instead of the others. Ultimately, that is the point. It's a black watch that's executed gracefully with a few features that is waiting for you to enjoy. It does sacrifice a bit of personality and emotion, but like a cold, well-trained professional, it gets the job thoroughly and well done. And that is a Swordfish 40 with black DLC. There's also a Swordfish 42 that they're releasing at the same time, but it's the same new refreshed collection from Zelos. Of course, this one has that DLC coding that we've never seen before, or at least for this channel, but it manages to mix it up and make it interesting for me with all of these different surface applications. They have brush satin finish here, we have some gloss applications there, and also that sandblasted bezel. Very nice. There's an interesting application here, really dark application of the meteorite dial, and that may not be as suitable to many. Some may think they may. I personally, for example, I like the little variances in the hues of natural meteorite, but this is also not that bad. It still has that unique textured pattern to it, and of course, they released this new micro adjust mechanism on the clasp, wherein you can adjust it even when you have it on your wrist. Now, in the unboxing video, I said I was angry at Elshan, but I never got to say why I'm angry about him, because we wanted to release that kind of clasp. We wanted to release that for our own micro brand, and now Zelos has it too, and we're afraid that once Zelos has it, everybody's gonna have it. So hopefully we can release it before everybody else too. But it's not about who finishes first. It's about how you execute it. And I think execution-wise, Zelos was able to satisfyingly execute a DLC watch, even though there's still a smidgen there of dissatisfaction. But that's my personal taste. What about you? Comment down below. Let me know what you guys think about this new Zelos. And I think it's, aside from that, it's a fantastic release, very nice and cohesive, and striking colors with that orange highlights. Very good. Comment down below, let me know what you guys think, and let's discuss.